Hello people and welcome to the channel. It's no secret I love Pokémon Emerald, and whether it is a solo run or a Nuzlocke, I'm always happy to replay this game. With that said, I'm aware of its flaws. Earlier gens are infamous for having bad movesets, and Emerald is no exception. In fact, if you exclude the learnable TMs, some Pokémon are hilariously bad. This led me to a thought that is the core of this video. Would I be able to beat an Hardcore Nuzlocke without learning any moves at all? Before jumping into the run, it's due to explain the rule set. The standard Hardcore Nuzlocke rules are in place, so no items in battle, no over-leveling, I can only catch the first Pokémon encounter in each route, as long as I don't have it already, a fainted Pokémon is considered dead and must be boxed forever, last but not least, set mode must be selected. Now for the run-specific rules. I can only use the moves a Pokémon has when I obtain it. This means there will be quite a few Pokémon, including the starter, that will never even have 4 moves. Of course, I cannot prevent them from automatically learning moves while leveling up, but I'll make sure to delete them as soon as possible using PK hacks. Speaking of PK hacks, all the grinding will be done through this program. Since there are a lot of people who despise skipping grinding, I want this to be clear from the start, and if there is any doubt, just let me know. I'll be glad to clarify. Since I'm not allowed to learn new moves, and this includes the HMs, I will catch a couple of HM users that will never be sent out in battle. I think that's it, so without further ado, let's start the run. Once again, the best starter is Mudkip, and there's no question about it. My starter moveset is going to be terrible anyways, so might as well invest in a ground type. Even without an actual ground move, Marstomp can be an excellent pivot for Watson. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Their first gym leader is Roxanne, and her usually trivial rock types are going to be a real issue. Most of the Pokemon I can find only have normal moves, like Tackle and maybe Growl, so yeah, that's not going to work. To reliably beat Roxanne, I need to find a Wingull with Water Gun on Route 102. It doesn't matter what level, but Wingull is not guaranteed. Poochyena and Zigzagoon are also on the table, so I need to plan my encounter path accordingly. With a little bit of luck, I managed to get my first encounter from Petalburg Woods, and from there I went backwards to Route 102. I did get a Poochyena in the process, but unfortunately I missed the Zigzagoon on Route 103, and as a result, I was not able to get the Wingull. That's a reset, there's no way around it. Now on the next attempt, I will get the Wingull, might as well spoil it, so let's actually pay attention to the other encounters. In Petalburg Woods I find a Wurmple, which is pretty much the best encounter here, especially if it becomes a Dustox. Not to mention Poison Sting and even String Shot are very decent moves for this stage of the game. Route 104 is not as generous. I think Marill is the worst encounter here, but what can you do? Thankfully the Route 103 gives me the Poochyena dupe. Poochyena by itself is terrible, more so if you consider it only has Tackle, but once it becomes a Mightyena, it's gonna be a pretty good pivot thanks to Intimidate. Route 102 is now a 50-50 between Wingull and Zigzagoon, but I already spoiled the result of the coin flip. Finally, we have a run to play. The fight standing between me and Roxanne are pretty trivial even without decent moves, so let me skip ahead to the first gym leader battle. As good as his Water Gun, Wingull doesn't have the best special attack, and its low defense along with the typing won't allow it to directly face Nosepass. So for now, it's just going to take down the first Geodude. The second one comes out and I switch into Mudkip expecting a Rock Tomb, but the game is extra kind and Geodude for some reason goes for Defense Curl, giving me the time to lower its attack with Growl. Now Rock Tomb doesn't deal much, but I'm still not satisfied. I need to use Growl 2 more times before switching. After a second Rock Tomb, we are now in a speed tie, so Geodude should not try to lower my speed anymore, which makes the switch into Dustox a bit safer. Rock Throw is also a possibility, but thankfully it doesn't crit, so I'm fine. Now I need to get the Poison. Poison Sting only has a 30% chance to inflict a status condition, but my Dustox is a beast and gets it on the very first turn. As long as I'm out of crit range, I can afford to keep Dustox and chip away some HP with Tackle. Well, as I said, my Dustox is a monster and it gets 2 Tackle crits in a row, which, along with the poison damage, brings Geodude down to red. It's time to send out the useless Marill. Roxanne uses the first potion, but it's okay, the poison will slowly do the job while it starts setting up Defense Curl. It's a long and tedious battle, so I'm going to spare you most of it. Geodude likes to use Defense Curl, and even when it decides to attack, with a +3 defense, Rock Throw only deals 3 damage. As long as it doesn't get crit too much, Marill is bound to win. Luckily, not even a single crit, and in my mind, what I thought was the worst possible encounter slowly starts to become a hero. Marill eventually managed to win the slowest fights of its life. but then it's thrown into an even slower one. With 41 HP remaining and a dream, after getting blocked, Meryl has to fight for its life. Tackle only deals 1 damage and can miss, but Nosepass is not in a good spot either. Rock Tomb will only be used if I'm faster or in kill range, and since I'm neither of those, we are both stuck in a tackle battle. No one wants to actually see this, but the posterity has to know. This Meryl landed 25 tackles. He managed to proc Nosepass or Berry, then he brought it back down to yellow, and finally he fell due to a critical hit. I really feel guilty for naming this Meryl Garble. Thanks to his struggle, it's now completely safe to send out Wingull and finish the job with Water Gun. This has to be one, if not the longest battle I've ever had against Roxanne. First badge acquired, let's move on. After boxing forever the hero I did not deserve, I head to the Whismur Cave to catch one. I had no idea what to do with this, but for now it's good to have a low level Pokémon for the Repel trick. The Repel trick is going to be vital in a challenge like this, where not only it's important to plan the encounters correctly, but also getting them at the right level. In this case I'm leading the party with a level 8 Whismur and a Repel active. This way, from Route 117 I can either get Tailo or Skitty, the first one being much more common. Additionally, at level 8 Tailo has Quick Attack, which is great. For now though, all I care about is Peck. The upcoming battle against Broly is going to be much faster than the one we just saw. A Guts boosted Peck is enough to sweep Broly's team. I had to do a bit of EV training, but pretty much every Tailo can do this easily. While the battle happens, I want to use the chance to ask you what you think about EV training in a Nuzlocke. Since my Pokémon are getting EVs whether I want it or not, I think it's legit to strategize around it. Unless you want to play without EVs completely, but that's another story. Anyway, Makuhita was actually a range, but even missing it wouldn't have been the end of the world. With Broly defeated, it's time to seriously think about the Watson fight. The strategy I'll use heavily depends on the upcoming encounters, especially the Granite Cave one. Thanks to the Repel trick, I can narrow down the encounters to Sableye, Makuhita and Aron. The latter is much more common and it's honestly the one I'm looking for. Not only its typing makes for a great physical wall, but it also gets Mud Slap, which is the only ground move I can have access to at this stage of the game. I want to talk more about Watson, but I kinda have to show this late pot rival battle first. There's nothing to worry here, and even though I forgot to poison my Swallow beforehand, it's still not going to matter. Swallow is really strong for this stage of the game, even with just Peck and Quick Attack. 2 more encounters before Watson. On Route 117 I unsurprisingly find an Oddish. Absorb is the main reason I wanted an Oddish, but I made sure to get a level 14 one so that it has Poison Powder too. Not that I plan to use the move, but you never know. I'm not sure what I want from Route 110. Every encounter seems to be at least decent here. Okay, it's a Gulpen. It only has Pound, Poison Gas and Yawn, but I can see the latter being good, and even Poison Gas can have some niche uses. With the encounter part out of the way, it's time to see the battle against Watson. The first thing I had to decide was how to deal with Voltorb. It has Self-Destruct, and aside from having a Ghost type, there's no way to completely prevent it from going boo. First thing first, I lead with Aron so that it will get to level 25 as soon as Voltorb faints. Voltorb should use Spark, so I can freely switch to Marstomp. Oh. Well, Marstomp is kinda bulky and Voltorb has a really mediocre attack stat, not to mention I had 4 levels on it. Still, I don't like losing so much valuable HP. Marstomp learns Mud Sport as it levels up, nobody cares of that move in single battles, and Electrike comes out. I'm gonna switch in Swallow. Worst that can happen, Electrike uses Quick Attack on the switch, but yeah, Howl is much more likely. Thanks to the Guts attack boost, my own Quick Attack one-shots it, and now I can start worrying about Magneton and Manectric. Manectric comes out, I was expecting Magneton to be honest, but it's fine. The Shockwave here is guaranteed, so Marstomp is a no-brainer. Watson is then not going to use an electric move on my ground type, and Quick Attack is also unlikely until Manectric sets up a couple of Owls, so I basically have a free switch, and I must make it count. I decide to have faith in Gulpen. I can risk to stay in a couple of turns until Poison Gas hits, Poison would be huge here, and this little stomach is not going to disappoint me. Now I can switch back to Marstomp for the potential Shockwave, but Manectric decides to set up a third Howl instead. It doesn't really matter though. My idea now is to switch back and forth between Marstomp and Aron. Even a +3 attack, Manectric's quick attack deals a laughable amount of damage to Aron, which then baits Shockwave. So back to Marshtomp, and this can go on as much as it needs to slowly but surely whittle down Manectric. Watson will use both of his Super Potion on its ace, and Manectric also has a Citrus Berry equipped, so as you can imagine, it took a really long time to finally defeat it. So much that when I'm finally done, Aron is down to 42 HP, lower than I was expecting. Magneton is last. I do have a plan that should work, I hope. First of all, I send out Dustox. Getting hit by Supersonic on the switch is terrible, so back to Marshtomp to get rid of it. Let's try again. Good. I mean, losing 20 HP to Sonic Boom is not the best thing in the world, but it shouldn't matter. Now I need to land 2 string shots on Magneton. Dustox is already faster, so it managed to land the first one before getting paralyzed. My Cherry Berry procs, and now hopefully String Shot won't miss. I have no idea why, but String Shot has not perfect accuracy. It's actually a 95% chance to hit, just like Tackle. Anyway, things go well, so it's time to switch. I'd love to use Aron's Mud Slap here, but as I said before, its HP got kinda low, so it's a bit more tricky to send it out safely. I did multiple switches, some of them not even necessary, but in the end I managed to send out Gulpen without getting confused right away. Thanks to the speed drops I'm faster, and Yawn is going to give me the free switch I'm looking for. Some good sleep lag would make me feel more comfortable here, but Magneton wakes up the same turn I start attacking with Mud Slap. Once again, thanks to Dustox, Magneton is lower, so it very predictably goes for Thunder Wave. The Cherry Berry activates, time to Mud Slap again. This is not the safest situation, but odds are in my favor, especially if you consider the accuracy drops. And Thunder Wave hits again. Okay, I'm going to play this safe. Wingull should be able to Water Gun, and I can send it out pretty safely if I pivot through Marshtomp. Oh. I'm ready to bet a lot of you never even saw this dialogue before. But here I am, getting punished by Magnet Ball. I guess we are risking Aron. Sonic Boom hits, unlucky. Come on, no full para. Yes, it's finally over. I spent like half an hour playing this battle, so no wonder I was a bit nervous at the idea of losing Aron to Magnet Ball, of all things. Watson is defeated, and thanks to the Dynamo Badge, my Pokémon get a 10% boost on the speed. It's now time for what I like to call the Pelipper arc, also known as the Watergun Saga. Nothing worth to mention between Watson and the battle against Maxie at Mount Chimney, so let's see that. The new level cap finally allowed me to evolve Wingull, and apparently a Pelipper with Watergun is able to absolutely dominate this section of the game. Even if Mightyena managed to survive much longer than expected, thanks to Kenai I don't have to worry about any side attack shenanigans, and Pelipper's bulk is more than enough to soak a couple of hits. A Persian Berry makes sure I don't have to worry about getting confused by Zubat, but it doesn't matter as it just goes for Wing Attack before fainting. Camerupt is last, and, quoting an expression I always love to hear, you just spit on it and it dies. Maxie couldn't handle the fury of my Pelipper, and Flannery is not going to do any better. Let's see the gym battle in Lava Ridge. Here's the plan. I send out Pelipper, and it goes for Oonga Boonga with Water Gun. I won't pretend there is any depth in this battle. Every Pokémon except Torkoal is going to faint in a single hit. I was so confident about this battle that I even forgot to keep a Cherry Berry to counter a possible paralysis from Body Slam. And look at that, I might actually get punished. Just kidding, Pelipper does not understand a complex concept like paralysis. Me Pelipper, me Water Gun. The battle is won. Time to give the cave bird some rest. Before advancing to Petalburg, there are a couple of encounters I want to get. First, since I already got a Marill, I can take the guaranteed Numel from Route 112. Not that I want to use it, but having a Numel means that I will either get Spoink or Machop from the Jagged Pass. Machop is a much better Pokémon, and luckily enough, that's what I get. A fighting type is obviously going to be really good for the next gym fight, but before showing you the battle against Norman, there's one last very important encounter I must get. Wild Cacnea can be found in the desert on Route 111, and since it's the only Pokémon that can appear at level 22, it's possible to guarantee it with the Repel trick. The cactus is usually not very good for Nuzlockes, but I have big plans for it. No need to show you the trainers battles at the Petalburg gym, so let's skip directly to the leader. As I said, Machoke is going to be very good here. The one I got has a kinda mediocre attack, but it compensates with an almost perfect speed which, with some EV training, is going to allow me to outspeed both Pinda and Vigoroth. The relatively bad attack doesn't even matter. I made sure to enter the battle poisoned so that Guts is active, and Karate Chop, while not the best move, is probably the best fighting move I'll have access to for the rest of the run. So yeah, both Pinda and Vigoroth are an easy one-shot. Linoone is next, and this I cannot outspeed, but even considering the poison damage, I should be just barely out of crit range. There's also a good chance it wastes its turn with Belly Drum, which is exactly what happens here. Only Slaking is left, but he's obviously a different type of beast, and Machoke won't be able to get past it by simply spamming Karate Chop. I should be in Façade's kill range, so I switch into Aron. Aron, despite being a first form Pokemon, is incredibly good at tanking normal moves, so even a crit from Slaking only deals 24 damage. Now the plan is to switch back and forth Aron and Mightyena to drop Slaking's attack with Intimidate. Slaking has two offensive moves, Façade and Feint Attack. Façade will always be selected against Mightyena even after the attack drops, and Feint Attack is by far the best move it can use against Aron. All this to say that what you're seeing are very safe switches, and the fact that Slaking kept spamming counter was lucky, but not necessary by any means. Once Norman Says is at -4 attack, it's time to send out Cacnea on a Loafing turn. With such a dropped attack, Slaking should not select Façade, and my Cacnea can leave a crit from Feint Attack, so it's a perfect moment to use Leech Seed. Well, another counters seals the deal, and at this point I don't even need to keep switching. Thanks to the constant healing from Leech Seed, it's completely safe to let Aron finish the battle. I have to say, this was a surprisingly easy Norman. I did not expect to have so many tools to deal with them in a run like this, but then again, I was lucky to find a really fast Machoke. Time to start the long trip to Fort Tree. It's really easy to reach the city as the battles on the way are all pretty trivial, including the one against May. I'll briefly show that soon. First, a couple of new encounters. Thanks to Surf, I can now reach New Mauville and get the guaranteed electric type. It's either Voltorb or Magnemite, but as per usual I roll an unlucky Voltorb. Then I find a Zigzagoon on Route 118, which is not terrible considering that pickup in late game gives infinite access to White Herbs. Route 119 actually had me torn between a guaranteed Tropius and the cast form from the Weather Institute. I eventually decided to get the cast form. It's a shame it doesn't have Weather Ball, but it's my only possibility to get access to Rain Dance and Sunny Day. Every time I choose to get cast form, it's always the same. I would love to use it, but deep down I know I probably won't. Anyway, as I said before, the rival battle is easy. I was supposed to sweep it with my Swallow, but, and this might sound familiar, I forgot to pre-poison it. Not a big deal, it just takes a couple of extra turns, and for Grovyle I can simply send out Cacturne. Leaf Blade does nothing, and then, after getting screeched, Cacturne lands a huge beam missile for the one shot. Well, 3 shots actually, but you get the point. Winona is the next important battle, and I can tell you her illegal Altaria makes her a worthy opponent. Let's see the fight. First is Swablu. I lead with Electrode, which, thanks to Spark, won't have any trouble to one-shot the fluffy bird. I made sure to start the battle with some HP missing, so that after the level up I have exactly 59. The next Pokemon is going to be Altaria since it has Earthquake, and thanks to the missing HP, it is guaranteed to go for the kill. It's the perfect moment to send out my Cacturne, which, thanks to the XP share it's holding, is already at level 34. The extra level will allow me to leave a potential critical hit the next turn, or not. Earthquake crits on the switch, putting my Cacturne in early crit range, and I'm afraid I won't be able to play around it. I absolutely need to land a Leech Seed. Okay, Dragon Dance is good, please don't miss. Perfect. Now I just need to stall a couple of turns. First I switch into Lairon as Altaria sets up a second Dragon Dance. It's for sure scary to see a +2 attacking speed Altaria, but it shouldn't matter. The Earthquake here is guaranteed, so I send out Pelipper, which is going to bait either Air Release or Dragon Breath. They are both good. Back to Lairon, it can easily tank the hit, and then I'll just have to repeat the process one more time. Leech Seed is a bit cheesy, I know, but at least it's very situational and needs a proper setup to work. Anyway, for this Earthquake I'm going to send out Swallow instead of Pelipper. Since Altaria only took damage from Leech Seed and that deals a set amount, I know exactly how many HP it has left. 28. High enough to not trigger a potion, and low enough to guarantee dice from a guts boosted quick attack. I'm not completely sure on what Pokemon is going to come out next, but it should be Tropius, and here it is. A couple of hits will be enough to take it down without any risk. Swallow is fragile, but Tropius Aerialis is really weak, and the turn after I can finish it off with a second pack. At this point the battle is over. Pelipper and Skarmory are left, and doesn't really matter the order, Electrode will take down both of them. Pelipper is of course going to be a 1-hit KO, and even if Skarmory can take a hit, the Hyper Potion spam from Winona is not going to save it. 6 badges in the bag. We can now enter in what I define as the late game. The opponents will start having stronger moves, while I'll be stuck with very basic ones. And yet, I'm not really afraid. There's no point in showing the Grand battles at the Magma Hideout, and the Team Aqua and Lilycove is embarrassingly easy, so I think all there's to see for this section is Maxi 2. I mean, it's absolutely not a difficult fight, I have all the tools I need to defeat him. Thanks to a Persim Berry, Machoke can take care of Mightyena without worrying about Swagger. Intimidate and Scary Face crippled Machoke's stats a bit, but nothing serious, and eventually Mightyena goes down to a Karate Chop. Crobat is second, and while Electrode can easily outspeed it, it cannot one-shot, and I don't trust this Crobat, so I send out Lairon first. Wing Attack barely deals any damage, and now all I need to do is to land a simple headbutt. And here's the Confuse Ray. Not sure why I didn't give Lairon a Persim Berry, but doesn't really matter as I win the Confusion Coin Flip on the first try. Perfect moment to switch Electrode, made even more perfect by the bite into Static Proc. Not that I need it, Spark is going to take down Crobat from here anyway, but it's nice to see some good RNG from time to time. Last is Camerupt, and if you're having a deja vu, you are not to blame. Same Camerupt, same Pelipper, same Watergun. A Nuzlocke is bound to have easier and harder sections. This doesn't mean you should let the guard down, and, most importantly, never ever go in autopilot mode. As a rich Mostip, I decide to go straight to the Psychic Gym to take care of the mandatory trainers. Their Pokemon all have really low defense and HP, so Lairon should have no trouble, right? Yeah, kinda embarrassing. I can't even cry about bad luck, the crit wasn't needed. So, goodbye Lairon, I shall take full responsibility for your death. I can't bring you back, but I won't let my guard down anymore. Before showing you Tate and Liza, a couple of new encounters. Now that I have the Super Rod, I can fish for Wailmer pretty much everywhere. Wailmer and Wailord are not very good without Water Spout, but I only needed to guarantee a Sharpedo from Mostip. Then, back to Petalburg, I can fish up a Corphish. As long as it's not level 38 or above, it will have Protect. And last on the list, but chronologically first, I forgot to mention that I got the guaranteed Absol from Route 120 already before the Winona fight. I'll go into the gym battle with a full team, but these 3 are pretty much all I need to take down the Psychic Twins. Xatu and Claydol are first and I lead with Absol and Corphish. Thanks to its decent physical bulk, at level 38 Corphish is out of Claydol's Earthquake kill range, but is always dead to Psychic. Of course, this means that Xatu will focus it as well, so it's very efficient to use Protect, while Absol deals a good amount of damage with Bite. Both of the opponents will try again to use Psychic on Corphish, so it's time to switch it out for Sharpedo. While Tate and Liza waste another turn, Absol finishes off Xatu with a second bite, giving my Pokemon a level up. Solrock comes out to replace Xatu, and it doesn't really pose much of a threat. It sees a kill with Solar Beam on Sharpedo, but that means I have a free turn to focus down Claydol before it starts spamming Earthquake. Lunaton is last and its only damaging move is Psychic, so all I have to do is attack Solrock with both Absol and Sharpedo before it gets the chance to land the Solar Beam. Lunaton is then going to try and stall me with Hypnosis, but while Absol has the Black Glasses equipped, I made sure to give a Chesto Berry to Sharpedo. Really easy battle, with so many guaranteed Dark types you really can't go wrong against Tate and Liza. Next up is the Team Magma at the Space Center, but I have very good options for the double battle against Maxi and his admin. A Pokemon like Wailord is not only decent into their team, it's also very expandable. Having to team up with Steven opens up to some really terrible RNG scenarios, and I don't want to run the slightest risk of losing an actually valuable Pokemon. Anyway, as always, I overly worried about this fight and I end the battle with plenty of health remaining on Wailord. Maybe I tend to worry too much, or maybe this Wailord is a good RNG magnet. I decide to bring it into the battle against Archie as well, and look what it managed to pull off. First of all, a Water Pulse crit one-shots my Tiana. Then, after snapping out of confusion thanks to a Persian Berry, Wailord gets a 20% Water Pulse confusion on Crobat, and on top of that, Crobat hit itself right after, falling down to red. At this point I can simply send out Electrode while Archie tries to heal with a ridiculous super potion, and from there it's just a matter of spamming Spark. I might not be able to teach Electrode Thunderbolt, but seems like Spark is perfectly capable to deal with my opponents despite it being a mid-game move. There's no point in showing all the Rayquaza related stuff, so let me skip ahead to a couple of encounters I made sure to get before facing the last Hoenn Gym Leader. First, thanks to the Repel trick, I can guarantee a Psyduck with Psycap from the Safari Zone. Then, by fishing in Lilycove, I get myself a Staryu, since it's the only eligible encounter left. The Repel trick doesn't work while using a rod, but doesn't matter the level, pretty much any Staryu will do for me. After a little bit of traveling around to get a couple of evolution stones, I can finally put together the team that will take down Juan. Let's see the battle. Juan leads with the usual embarrassing Love Disc. My newly evolved Blossom is not going to take care of it, I just needed to get level 47 as soon as possible. Electrode will make short work of Love Disc, but I get kinda punished for the greedy switch as Water Pulse crits right away. Shouldn't really matter too much, and Spark easily one-shots. Whiscash is gonna be second, and after that crit there's no doubt I'm in Earthquake kill range, so I know what I'm switching into. Time to actually use Blossom. Juan gets another crit on the switch, very nice game, but the damage hardly matters as a simple Absorb heals me back to full HP. Whiscash then goes for Amnesia, I was worried about this, so another Absorb won't be enough to score the kill. As you can see, a regular Earthquake doesn't do much, but the less damage I deal with Absorb, the less I heal back. So to avoid a potentially dangerous stall, I decide to go for Poison Powder as Juan uses an Hyper Potion. As I start attacking again, Whiscash sets up a Rain Dance, so I decide to stall a couple of turns with Sweet Scent. Blossom doesn't really care about rain boosted moves, but I want to make sure the rain doesn't cause trouble for the rest of my team. I do have to tank 2 Earthquakes in the process, but at least a final Absorb helps me back a little bit. Third is Celio, and I have a really cool idea to deal with it. First I send out Swalot as Juan gets the third crit on the switch in a row. The attack drop doesn't matter, but then the next turn I get full paralyzed, so I'm unable to use Yawn on Celio. I got crit into 10% attack drop chance into full para. Nice. Anyway, I managed to attack the turn after, so it's all good. The reason why Swalot entered the battle paralyzed is that I wanted it to be slower than Celio. This Celio has Anchor, and since it's faster, it should try to lock my Swalot into Yawn, basically giving me a free switch for Electrode. Well, now I know the AI doesn't care about using Anchor on Yawn. And I also know this battle is rigged, no way Juan got yet another crit on the switch. But even with all the crits and the failed prediction, my plan is still solid. Electrode might be down to 16 HP, but Celio won't wake up in time to attack again, as 2 Sparks is all I need to take it down. Crotant is next, but it has a terrible special defense which, along with a mediocre HP stat, won't allow it to survive a single Spark. So all is left is Kindra, the double team spammer. This Kindra can be a menace between its great stats, double team and rest, but I have a pretty much foolproof plan to deal with it. First I send out my Golduck. As you can see, Kindra doesn't do much damage and I have a Lumberry in case of freeze or confusion. The goal is to land Screech 3 times. Might seem like a bad idea considering its not perfect accuracy and Kindra's tendency to boost its evasion, but Golduck has a trump card, Psycap. Psycap copies all the opponent's stat changes, so now my Golduck has a really boosted evasion, and even if it copied the defense drops too, Kindra has no way to take advantage of it. We've seen how little damage I take. Add 6 double teams on top of it, and the chances of risking to die before landing all 3 Screeches are next to 0. So yeah, sorry Kindra. Once Kindra drops to -6 defense, it's time to send out Starmie. Water Pulse confuses me on the switch, not a problem, I have a Lumberry, and now all I need to do is to use Swift 2 times. I'd say I got a pretty below average RNG here, but still, this was a nice and clean victory. All the badges are mine. Next up, the Pokémon League. Before talking about the Elite Four, let's see the last round of encounters. The first one is my favorite. By surfing in Sutopolis, I can guarantee a high-level Magikarp. This is a really important Pokémon, and you'll see why later. Then I fly all the way to Full Arbor and fish up a Barboach from Route 114. At level 35 it has Earthquake, which is exactly what I need. Since I got a Zubat dupe from the Seafront Cavern, I can easily get myself a Spear from Shore Cave. It's really important to not find a level 32 Speel, and I don't, so everything is perfect for now. My dive encounters are a bit less ideal. Clamperl, Chinchou and Relicanth are the only Pokémon that can be found underwater, but I can only get 2. I would have loved the Lantern, but I guess I'm not getting that. But the encounter that worries me the most is the Skypira one. If I get a Sableye here, I will guarantee a Mobile from Victory Road, and this might surprise you, Mobile is Elite Four material. So this is not what I wanted. Claydol doesn't even have Explosion at this low level, which makes it not ideal for Boom Strat either. And even if this wild Claydol managed to pull it off, no, Ancient Power Omniboost into Self-Destruct is not what I'd call a reliable strategy. It really sucks to not be able to guarantee a Mobile, but what can I do? Other than take it all out on the poor Wally, I mean. My Warwing doesn't have Ice Beam, but even with just Aurora Beam, Altaria has no chance to survive. Grass might be super effective on water, but sending out the Roselia second is not the smartest choice. Another Aurora Beam, another kill. So it is Magneton, that's for sure a better plan, but I recently got an effective Earthquake user, so goodbye Magneton. Next is Delcatty, and at this point I have to admit I grow fond of Exploud. This is probably its only moment in the entirety of Pokémon Emerald. No Sing Shenanigans thanks to Soundproof. And even Assist is less dangerous when moves like Supersonic Screech can't affect me. All I have is Pound and Uproar, but eventually, after wasting 2 full restores, Delcatty goes down. Last is Gardevoir, but I have a mild Sharpedo which, thanks to the black glasses and the level advantage, is able to one-shot it with Crunch. Wally is defeated. It's time to get serious. I'm gonna be honest. I anticipated this challenge to give much more trouble. So while I can change the core rule set at the last moment to make this more difficult, I can give myself a lower level cap for the Pokémon League. Instead of entering the final gauntlet with my team at level 55 to match Drake's elements, I will use Sydney's Ace as my reference point. I had to go through quite a bit of planning and preparation, but I'll explain what's needed along the way. So without further ado, let's battle Sydney, the Dark-type Master. Why was Magikarp my favorite encounter? Because Gyarados is one, if not the best pivot in the game, and yet I waited until the very end in order to have one with Flail. And Sutopolis is the only place where I can guarantee to find one at such high level. So, leading with a single HP and with a White Herb equipped to get rid of the Intimidate debuff, my Gyarados is gonna sweep. If I were to go into the Elite Four at level 55, this Gyarados would most likely be able to destroy pretty much everyone except Phoebe. At level 49 though, it's a completely different story. So, easy start, but the battles ahead are going to get tougher. Phoebe, not so much. Let's see. The thing is that I got lucky enough to find a mild Sharpedo that still knew the move Focus Energy. Increasing the critical hit chance to 25% is very good, even if not reliable, and considering that I have a free turn against Dusclops, I'll happily set it up. Phoebe's team is really slow, so I won't have to worry about outspeeding, but the second Dusclops is really bulky, and Sableye only takes neutral damage from Crunch, so they will be able to survive one hit. Unless I crit, that is. Critting against one of the two would be ideal, but if Sableye attacks me and Dusclops crits with Earthquake, there's a good chance my Sharpedo goes down, and probably the entire run would follow shortly after. Well, here's the crit against Sableye. All is good, we're going to win this match. While I spam Crunch a couple more times, notice that Gyarados has the XP share kept. I need to get a couple of levels as I go through the Elite Four. Remember that Gyarados can realistically only use Flail. Splash and Tackle are not exactly an option. Leveling up increases the maximum HP value, and the current HP goes up along with it, decreasing Flail's power as a result. As I said at the start, I am not too shy about EV training, even if I try to keep it at the bare minimum. When it comes to this Gyarados, I boosted a bit its attack and speed, but most importantly, I gave it extra HP. So now by using 5 Pomek Berries, which decrease the HP effort values by 10, I can bring my Gyarados down to 2 HP. Flail has again 200 base power, but that's not going to be enough to defeat Glacia. Glalia leads with Celio and I send out its evolution. Warrain has an incredible 8 times resistance to ice thanks to Thick Fat, but that's not the main reason why I'm using it. The reason is not the damage either, since as you can see, an Aurora Beam crit barely does anything. The point is Anchor. Since Glacia is guaranteed to use Hail whenever she can, it's really easy to abuse it to my advantage. So while Celio is locked into Hail, I switch it to Machoke to use Leer 2 times. In case of a really short Anchor, I could simply safely switch back to Warrain and repeat. After 2 Leers, the Hail stops, so it's the perfect moment to finish off Celio with Karate Chop. Second is Glalie, this one doesn't have Hail, and ideally I would get a crit with Karate Chop. I don't, and not only Ice Wind deals an alarming amount of damage, but even worse, it drops my speed. I'm in Ice Beam kill range now, so it's time to switch out. Warrain takes an hilariously low amount of damage and then I make a mistake. I know I outspeed Glalie and I know the AI hates to be slower, but for no reason at all, instead of waiting one turn, I switch back to Machoke right away, dropping its speed and losing some valuable HP as a result. Now I can't switch Machoke into a damaging move anymore. That's not good. For now I have to decide how to take down this Glalie. In the end I opt for Sharpedo, which should not be in Ice Beam crit range. Freeze would have been a nightmare, but that didn't happen, so crisis averted. Crunch is enough, and next is the level 52 Celio. I'm for sure in kill range of both Blizzard and Double Edge. I don't really care what it chooses, but I'm glad Celio went for Blizzard. Since this Celio has Hail, we already know what to do. First I let it set up, then I use Anchor and switch to Machoke. I don't need to bother using Leer, I can go straight for Karate Chop and get the 2-hit KO. Or, you know, the move with a high critical chance actually crits. Not necessary, but nice. The second Glalie comes out and it has Hail, so same as before. Switch Warrain on the Ice Beam, waste one turn with Aurora Beam, and Anchor Hail as soon as it uses it. I actually had to switch back and forth a second time because of a really short Anchor, but I think I can spare it to you and skip 1 minute ahead when on the last Hail turn Machoke finishes off Glalie with one Karate Chop. It's insane how good Machoke is for this battle, there's literally no other fighting type as reliable. With that said, it's time to say goodbye. I cannot cheese this Warrain with Anchor and it has Sheer Cold. Sheer Cold is not a move you usually have to worry about because it doesn't work on higher level Pokemon, but starting the Elite Four at level 49 made so that this Warrain can randomly take down any of my Pokemon. To such an high risk, I prefer a calculated loss. Karate Chop deals some good damage, but then Machoke finally gets hit by Ice Beam and faints. One of the true carries of this run, if you ask me. Since the Hail stopped, I can send out the 2 HP Gyarados to finish off Warrain with Flail. Oh, and I didn't mention it, but even if Gyarados got Dragon Dance at level 50, I'm obviously not allowed to use it. I had to sacrifice a good Pokemon, but Glacia is defeated. I said fights were going to increase their difficulty, and I can tell you that Drake scares me more than Glacia. Maybe even more than Wallace. I don't say this trying to hype the upcoming battle, I'm genuinely scared. And let me show you why. Shelgon is first, and as you could imagine, Warrain is going to be my main Pokemon for this battle. There are 3 Pokemon in Drake's team that are 4 times weak to Ice, so even with just Aurora Beam, I will be able to one-shot. Shelgon is not pot flying yet, but its special defense is not good, so after wasting 1 turn with Protect, it goes down in a single hit as well. And here is where things can get really ugly, really fast. Salamence is second, and while, as I said, I can one-shot, there's absolutely no way Warrain outspeeds. More importantly, Salamence has Rock Slide, and it's going to use it. Not only a crit would kill me, but a flinch would be just as bad. Not going to gamble my entire run on a 30% chance to flinch. I'm gonna switch out. I didn't expect to use Relicanth, that's for sure, but it ended up being the most suited Pokemon for the job. Salamence will target it with Dragon Claw, but not even a crit would kill, so it's safe to use Yawn. While Salamence gets drowsy, I switch back to Walrein. Walrein is also not dead to Dragon Claw crit, but losing so much HP would put me in a really bad position. Why do I talk? Well, Aurora Beam takes it down and I do have the Shell Bell, but 73 HP is not good. At least Drake sends out Altaria third, so it's basically more healing from the Shell Bell. But even then, having barely half HP does not make me comfortable going against Kindra. Kindra has Mach Screen and Dragon Dance along with Body Slam. All three moves can be potentially really bad, and on top of it I'm also slower. I decide to go for the 3-hit KO with Aurora Beam. I really don't like losing HP on Walrein, but I don't even have a safe switch right now, so there's no better option. Okay, Body Slam is not too bad. Do I even have to comment on this? I'm not so sure I will win this battle now. It took me a good while to decide my next move, and in the end I saw a way out in Redicant. Kindra is going to attack for sure, but Walrein is so low that I might be switching into a Surf. That would probably be game over. So fingers crossed. Nice. And no paralysis. Now I can use Yawn and then I'll work from there. Dragon Dance is not the worst, but I should probably use Rock Tomb to offset at least the speed boost. That's some big surf damage right there and... oh, come on! Rock Tomb misses at the worst possible time, but at least Kindra is sleeping now. I guess I'll have to get the speed drop and then sack Relicanth. Maybe I will be able to finish it off with Gyarados, I don't know. Rock Tomb this time hits, nice, but I'd say I need one more to make sure Flail kills. Wait, what? Ah, I did not see this one coming. Makes sense, Flygon can resist rock moves. And maybe it's not even so bad. The critical hit is really clutch here and the speed drop is incredibly good. Yes, I see a way out of this mess. It's not 100% safe, but it's the best I got. After 10 minutes of hesitation, I went for it. The Gyarados switch. Relicanth was only dead to Earthquake, so while it's scary to send out a Pokemon with 2 HP, that was completely safe. Now, thanks to that Rock Tomb crit, Flail has roughly a 75% chance to kill from here, and the speed drop will allow Gyarados to attack first. Their head health beeping was nerve-wracking. I prepared myself to select Flail, and as I clicked it, I closed my eyes, waiting to hear Flygon's cry, the sound of victory. Hearing Crunch instead, I knew the run was over. From here Sharpedo can win me the match, but as I said, at this point I have no chance of winning the run. Gyarados was vital to defeat Wallace. While the battle ends, let me say that this was incredible. First the Salamence crit, then the Kindra incident, then that random Flygon switch into a Rock Tomb crit. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. This attempt is sadly lost, but the excitement I got from the battle against Drake is one of the reasons I like Nuzlockes, so in the end, I can't really complain. It did take me a couple of days before getting back to the challenge, but when I did, I was even more determined to win. I don't think it's necessary to follow attempt 3 step by step. It's a different run for sure, but most of my strategies involved guaranteed encounters, so instead of keeping this video going for 50 more minutes, I'll just show you what went differently. For Roxanne, this time I did not have a Marill, but Zigzagoon served the same purpose. It got blocked by Nosepass, so after using Growl enough times, it had to engage a tackle battle until the very end, and at that point Wingull was able to take down Nosepass. I had to risk a crit, but that was to be expected. Nothing different about Broly, and I also got again Aeron from Granite Cave, so my Watson team is going to look almost identical. Voltorb did the exact same thing and exploded on their Marshtomp switch, this time getting a critical hit. The early encounters were pretty much the same, except that I had to settle for a Taillow without Quick Attack and got a level 5 Poochyena from the route North Rustboro. As a result, I had to use a Mightyena with Howl to deal with Electrike. Since I had Dustox and Aeron, I was able to use the Swing Shot Mudslap strategy against Magneton. Once again I risked my Aeron due to Magnet Pull, but I ended up not losing it. As far as Manectric is concerned, it was again a poison stall, but this time instead of Gulpen I used Gloom's poison powder. One big difference from attempt 2 is the Jagged Pass encounter. Instead of Machop, I got a Spoink. Really hate that encounter here, but at least it was a light-hearted sacrifice during the battle against Blannery. This time Pelipper wasn't able to easily brute force with Watergun as Torkoal gave issues. Sunny Day made the battle go a bit longer, but in the end Pelipper was still able to come out on top. As you can imagine, Norman was different without Machoke, but not so much. I made sure to take down Spinda with Aaron so that Slaking came out second. Then same Leech Seed strategy with Cacnea, but this time while the Leech Seed was doing its course, Aaron stayed in and kept setting up Harden. This way, after defeating Slaking, it was pretty easy to outlast the remaining Pokemon in Norman's team. Moving on, thanks to the early Zigzagoon, I was able to secure a Manectric from Route 118, which means I could afford to delay the new Mobile encounter. Route 119 went differently as well. Instead of a sadly useless cast form, I got myself a Tropius that's going to replace Bellossom in the one fight. Winona doesn't need much explanations. I used Manectric instead of Electrode, and since I had a particularly frail Cacturne, I had to risk a crit to get the Leech Seed going on Altaria. Attempt 3 did not feature any incident in the Psychic Gem, and as far as 1 is concerned, the plan was exactly the same, except that I used a Magneton instead of Electrode, and I managed to bait an Anchor from Celio. I basically got all the electric types, Manectric from Route 118, Electrode from the Team Aqua hideout, and Magneton from New Mobile. My encounter path for sure improved from attempt 2, and on this matter I should mention that this time I remembered to get a Sableye from the Cave of Origin. Only Zubat and Sableye can be found there, but once you wake up Rayquaza, the place is not accessible anymore. Anyway, this means the Mobile from Victory Road is guaranteed, and as I said, my original plan was to include Mobile in the final team. I for sure missed one thing or two, but hey, we got back to the Elite Four pretty fast. The Gyarados with Flail is a guaranteed encounter, and this time I even got one with an amazing attack stat, so I think we don't need to see Sydney getting swept again. Phoebe was a bit more scary because the Sharpedo I got this time doesn't have Focus Energy, but the result ended up being the same. No crits, but Sableye missed the only chance to cause issue as it just used Double Team, and then the Evasion Gods ignored its cry for help. This Sharpedo also has a bit higher defense, so it doesn't even come close to die from the second Dusclops. Nothing new so far, but for the next fight, I am missing an important member. Without Machoke, the fight against Glacia is a bit more tricky, but it's overall very similar. Manectric is going to be my main damage dealer, and as you can see, a simple Spark almost one-shots the first Celio. Of course, it uses Hail, and that's actually going to hurt a bit, since I can't one-shot Celio and Glacia keeps it alive a bit longer with a full restore. Eventually, Celio goes down and Glalie comes out. Manectric is faster, so I can expect an Icy Wind. For now, I decide to attack. It's really important to not switch on a speed drop, and I had the luck to find a Manectric with a decently high special defense. Now that it's faster, Glalie is going to either use Ice Beam or Light Screen, and both are good moves to anchor for Warrain. Warrain's Body Slam will be enough to kill Glalie in 2 more hits, and for now Glacia won't use her second full restore, so 2 Pokemon down, 3 more to go. The second Celio is going to set up Hail for sure. In the meantime, I deal some damage with Body Slam just to use Anchor immediately after. Now it's a free switch to Manectric, and even if Spark probably kills from here, I want to stall 2 Hail turns before giving the final blow. So first, I use Quick Attack a couple of times. I did not need to stall 2 entire turns, 1 was enough, but I must be sure that when the second Glalie comes out there's no Hail, and I was starting to be a bit paranoid. Anyway, here's the Glalie and here's the Warrain switch. Once again, I'm going to exploit Glacia's very predictable AI and use Anchor on Hail as soon as possible. This might be getting old, but with the Pokemon and the moves I have access to, this is the most consistent way to play out this battle. Now, instead of Manectric, I send out Sharpedo. 2 crunches are going to take down Glalie, but then, just like the Machoke in the previous attempt, Sharpedo will have to be sacrificed to avoid sheer cold shenanigans from Warrain. I realized that restoring Sharpedo's PP might have allowed it to win the 1v1, and I'm not trying to say this wasn't a stupid mistake, but the point is that I have a plan for the last 2 battles, and Sharpedo is not part of it. So let's finish the battle with Manectric and move on to the next room. The fate of the last attempt was decided here, so I'm going into the battle a bit paranoid, which is not the best mindset. When I'm so nervous, I tend to overthink each move, and trying to avoid every little risk often leads to failure. Well, let's see how it goes. First is Shelgon, and this time I have the Mobile I wanted. Mobile is the only wild Pokémon that can have the move Baton Pass, and since it also has Iron Defense, I can try to give a defense boost to one of my other Pokémon. All of Shelgon's moves are not very effective on Mobile, and it also has a tendency to use Protect, so I should have enough time to set up. The reason why Mobile leads the battle paralyzed is that otherwise I would be faster, and Shelgon would try to slow me down with Rock Tomb. And I do not want to pass a -1 speed with Baton Pass. Anyway, I get pretty lucky here, as even if I get full para once, Shelgon just uses Protect 4 times in a row. That has to be a record. The Pokémon I want to have the defense boost is Walrein, which, just like before, will be able to one-shot every member in Drake's team except for Kindra. So Shelgon goes down and Salamence comes out. Thanks to the huge defense boost, Salamence's best move is no longer the really dangerous Rock Slide, but Dragon Claw. Remember that all Dragon-type moves count as special in Generation 3. This time Salamence doesn't even get a crit, so after one-shotting Altaria with a second Aurora Beam, Walrein is almost back at full HP. It's in perfect shape for Kindra, but here is where I started to overthink. Let me explain. The idea is to deal a little bit of damage with Walrein's Body Slam and then switch Electrode to use Self-Destruct. My big concern is to switch into a Smokescreen and miss. The first turn, Kindra goes for Dragon Dance, so now I'm also worried about a second Dragon Dance that would allow it to outspeed my Electrode. This led me to try and fish for the Body Slam Paralysis. And let me say that while this is not the right play, I could have been a bit more lucky. Kindra uses Smokescreen 2 times, and as a result, my Body Slam misses 3 times in a row, and when it finally hits, I don't even get the paralysis. All I did was to cripple my Walrein's HP to a dangerous degree. Not great. Let's just switch to Electrode and hope Kindra doesn't pull off some shenanigans. Okay, Surf is good, I'm just barely out of crit range, and I outspeed, so it's safe to go boom. Thank you, Adamant Electrode, your sacrifice won't be forgotten. Only Flygon is left, but Walrein with such a low HP is gonna have to risk the crit, no way around it. Here's the Earthquake, and Walrein is not gonna fall, so the match is mine. That was a bit scary. I might have failed them too, but I surely didn't wait long to get back to this point. Only the champion is left. I just have 4 Pokémon, but I did not plan to have more, so unless the RNG gods decide to doom this attempt as well, I think I can make it. No more talking, let's face Wallace. The champion leads with Wailord, and I'm going to start the battle with Manectric. Manectric took some damage against Glacia, and I made sure to not heal it completely. At 110 HP, I'm in Water Spout kill range, but since the move deals damage based on the user's HP, and a single spark puts Wailord almost down to potion range, I don't have to worry. So now Wailord is almost dead, and I did not give it the chance to set up Rain Dance. That would have made things more complicated. Another spark takes it down, and now the Earthquake users are going to come out to deal with my electric type. Luckily, from this position Wallace always sends out Gyarados first, which, unsurprisingly, is a free kill for Manectric. Whiscash on the other hand doesn't care of my spark, so I have to switch. It's time to send out Walrein. I don't like to take damage from Earthquake right away, and probably I should have used Gyarados as a pivot, but it shouldn't matter too much. All I need here is to deal a little bit of damage with Aurora Beam. Whiscash is either going to use Earthquake or Hyper Beam, and it's never going to select Surf against Walrein. But when it comes to moves like Hyper Beam, the AI won't select them unless it sees a kill. All this to say that it's now safe to switch the 2 HP Gyarados. Thanks to the Aurora Beam damage, Flail kills from here, giving Gyarados a really important level up. Next is Tentacruel, a Pokémon known for its very good special bulk, but also for its weak physical defense, so Flail one-shots it. Milotic might die as well from Flail, but it's a very bad range and there's no way I go for it. Let's switch again to Walrein. I'm either switching on a Surf or on an Ice Beam. Both are good, but it's always a pleasure to see Walrein taking single-digit damage from an endgame opponent. Now the safest play is to use Aurora Beam a couple of times until Milotic takes down Walrein. I don't like to sack my Pokémon, but I'm taking no chances here. Gyarados has to come out without the slightest risk. As you can imagine, Flail is now guaranteed to kill, so only one Pokémon left, Ludicolo. No switches needed this time. Thanks to the level up and the seal scarf Gyarados is holding, Flail is just barely enough to ensure a one-shot. I had to sacrifice 3 Pokémon in the journey, but the champion is finally defeated and the challenge is complete. What can I say? This was for sure a nice twist to the usual Nuzlocke, one where I had to be even more careful when planning my encounters. Also, some incredibly strong Pokémon like Swampert and Tentacruel had literally no use, while I found myself using things like Cacturne and Mobile. The worst is that it took me way too long to upload this video, and I'm really sorry about it. But you know, stuff come up and you have to change your plans. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, if you feel like leaving a comment, I'm always happy to read your feedback or to simply interact with whoever ends up watching. The next video will be about a really difficult soul run, maybe even impossible, so stick around. For now, nothing else to say, so you have a nice day, and as for me, back to theory crafting.